What is up, my Squirtleites? It is I, your king, welcoming you back to more Let's Play a Destiny. In the last episode, we began Season of the Seraph by making our way down into Bray Exoscience and eventually Creation within Europa and rescuing Clovis Bray, who we have merged into this prototype exo frame along with Rasputin himself as Anna continues to try to build a body for Rasputin. This episode, we're going to be starting everything proper, but we need to talk about this right here. This is more than a weapon, which is the quest for this season. After a moment of thought, Clovis turns his attention to you once again. During the Golden Age, Rasputin partitioned a submine for operation in the Cosmodrome on Earth. Malahayati was its name. Unfortunately, the Fallen have either ransacked or destroyed all of the installations that would have housed any of its data. A glint of excitement flashes within Clovis's exo eyes. However, Malahayati was created to guide colonization efforts. I suspect that an off-world backup exists within the Seraph bunker on the moon. You will test that hypothesis. The exo's frame crane raises Clovis high above you like a king sitting upon a throne. Now go. It seems that you have an incoming transmission from a like-minded party. See if you have they have anything useful to say, and then carry on with your mission. Let's grab it. On top of that, we also have this right here, a resonance amp. Let's talk about this. A ripple of arc energy accompanied by a wave of static crests over the exo frame. Its eyes flicker in response. Clovis seems none too happy about it. What is that infernal racket? It sounds like music? The exo frame shakes its head, as if trying to break itself out of a trance. The source frequencies are corrupted and scattered across the system, Clovis complains. Given the Warmind's obsession with this sort of thing, it might be an attempt at communicating with us. Clovis focuses his attention on you. Use this resonance amp to compile and repair those frequencies. Perhaps then I can get some peace and quiet, and so we will take that as well. We'll talk about that first before we get into anything else. The resonance amp is a consumable item that we are able to carry with us that stores resonance stems. These are gotten by doing various activities throughout Season of Seraph, but they kind of make a return from the old Warmind DLC. If you remember correctly, back when we were going through that campaign, we were getting these resonance stems, but we never actually did anything with them because I kind of just stopped at the story with that one. Resonance stems were used to repair Warmind nodes, which were found all over the place. These could be easily identified with a clue that the resonance stems would give you on where the location was actually at. When you were near one of these Warmind cells, or Warmind nodes, excuse me, the screen would start to get a bit staticky, and you could hear a very faint sound of classical music playing, which was always Rasputin's signature. It's been pretty much ever since Destiny 1. These are repaired, and then you are able to get rewards for doing so. In this particular instance, getting these resonance stems will give you Ikelos weapons. So the returning versions of the Ikelos shotgun, which we already have in our inventory, the Ikelos sniper, the Ikelos hand cannon, and the Ikelos submachine gun. Really, out of all of those, the shotgun and the submachine gun are the only ones worth getting. The hand cannon is kind of awful. I mean, it really is only useful for Lucky Pants builds, but really so is any fast-firing hand cannon. And the sniper rifle is, I mean, if you can get like the perfect roll, it's a pretty good boss damage weapon, but aside from that, I wouldn't bother with it too much. Now let's get into the exo frame itself and talk about its stuff now that we've gone over resonance stems. So we still have upgrade paths. Once again, you only have 2 upgrade paths to worry about this time. These 3 right here, you're not going to get with standard seasonal challenges. These are actually part of completing more of the quest. You'll get these over time. These are used for making it easier to deal with the traps that you are going to be running into in the missions. But as far as the actual seasonal challenges go, that's just for these 2. You got focusing upgrades and efficiency upgrades. Very streamlined. I honestly think the best iteration of this, obviously it still could be better, but this is pretty darn simple. With efficiency upgrades, this allows you to get more Seraph key codes and also get deep sight resonance and access to those a lot more easily, while this makes focusing weapons a lot simpler and allows you to actually get access to both Ikelos and Season of the Seraph weapons. As we go in here, let's talk about all these. We got Umbral Focusing Soul System, weapons, and armor. Obviously, these 2 are the same. You got your new weapon types here. I'll go over these in a moment so we can talk about the utility and how good any of these are and whether they're actually worth chasing after. And then you have your standard armor, which honestly the best armor you're going to get is more than likely going to come from the Season Pass itself. Then we have the Soul System. So we're back to just worldly armor and weapons. Nothing really fancy here. We don't have foundries anymore like we had with the star chart. We have the Icolos weapons, which you can get for a single Umbral Engram, 25 shards, and 4 resonance stems. No Season of the Seraph energy required. However, you are going to need those to actually focus the weapons themselves. And like I said, the only ones really worth getting are the shotgun and the SMG. The SMG in particular is, I think, the hottest commodity of the entire season because you can get it with Feeding Frenzy Volt Shot. It is stupid good. As for the weapons down here, let's talk about those. So first things first, we have Fire and Forget. Fire and Forget is a 3-burst linear fusion rifle, the second one that we were given in the game. Its perks really aren't all that great, but it is Stasis, which is a little bit interesting, and again, it is a 3-burst. Now, these 3 bursts are high risk, high reward. If you can land all 3 shots in a 3-burst linear fusion rifle, they are by far the best DPS weapons in the entire game. May not be as much after a nerf, but still ridiculously strong. However, landing that 3-burst is way harder than landing a single-shot linear fusion rifle shot. It's so easy, even on mouse and keyboard, no matter how stable you are, for at least one of the shots in that burst to go astray, and the second one of those shots misses, you lose all the potency there. So you have to be incredibly steady with your hand on these things to make them work, and or just only ever shoot at targets with gigantic crit spots. So that's probably the one downside to using these things. And like I said, this one doesn't really have the best perks. The one that you can get in Duality has a much better perk pool, and luckily that one's actually sticking around. Tripwire Canary is a lightweight frame bow, and that's all you need to know about that. It can get some good perks. It can get Volt Shot, I think, or maybe it's just Swashbuckler, but it's a lightweight frame. These bows suck. There's no reason to use these at all, at least at the moment. Maybe someday down the road, but they are essentially bows that cannot one-shot all but the weakest enemies in the entire game when you shoot them in the head, while standard bows can. And that's kind of a make-or-break situation when it comes to bows because of how slow firing they are. Disparity is a 4-burst pulse rifle, something that we haven't actually seen in an extremely long time in Destiny. There are a couple of them floating out there, but they are incredibly rare, and this was one of the only ways to reliably get one. One of the most popular weapons in the entire game was a 4-burst pulse rifle known as Blast Furnace that came about all the way back in Season of the Forge, the Black Armory season that came with Forsaken. This pulse rifle was obviously sunset due to its nature, so being able to actually have access to a 4-burst is kind of huge, and this one can actually roll with some pretty interesting perks, ones that you can't get in any other way, such as Desperado, which was originally a perk exclusive to all but the best PvP weapons in the entire game. So this one is probably the hottest out of these 5, although there are a couple others that are still decent. Path of Least Resistance is the first legendary arc trace rifle. We've had other arc trace rifles up to this point. We have had a solar one and a void one. I don't think we've gotten a stasis one, though. But as far as standard elements, this is the arc one, and that's really all that is notable about it. Otherwise, it doesn't really have all that great of perks. In a lot of ways, it is kind of worse than the one that you could get from Season of the Haunted, and I just really wouldn't recommend it all that much. Judgment of Kelgarath is an aggressive frame glaive, the first of its type. These are a much slower firing glaive and also have a much slower melee combo, but they deal a lot more damage than any of the glaives we've seen up to this point. They also have a slower base magazine size. This one can roll with Incandescent, and in fact, I do have one in my inventory with Incandescent and Pugilist together, which is a pretty darn good combination. Now, like I said, this thing is slow. It has I believe a default much worse shield than most glaives, but this is all about dealing damage. If you like to be aggressive with glaives, this is the kind of glaive for you. The last one to talk about is Retrofit Escapade. Now, you might be confused because I have said up to this point that rapid fire machine guns are awful, and they kind of still are. However, Retrofit Escapade 1 gets a lot of really good perks, and, in fact, we have been using one up to this point, Force Times Star, one for all, but on top of that, there is a recurring artifact mod that has appeared in the game about 3 or 4 times up to this point that has to do with Void in particular. Volatile rounds. Remember how those work. You shoot things with Void damage, volatile rounds cause explosions, and it's pretty great. With Retrofit Escapade, you are able to maximize the damage on volatile rounds a lot because you are constantly putting in a lot of void damage because it fires so unbelievably quick. The artifact mod there's this artifact mod that reoccurs time and time again, and I believe is coming with Lightfall, allows you to basically get volatile rounds on command. It's not nearly as difficult as it is proccing it with something like a Void Grenade on your Night Stalker. You can get volatile rounds by literally picking up an Orb of Light, which can be spawned as often as you need them to do. So with something like Retrofit Escapade on top of volatile rounds, this thing gets stupid strong. So while it's a little bit more build dependent than something like Judgment of Kel'Garath or Disparity, it is still a very good machine gun and in its own class above other rapid fire frame machine guns. But that is it for all of those, essentially. We have bounties here. I am going to be grabbing these because I do need these, especially to get the reputation bumps that will come with them. But now that all of that is done, all of that explanation is done, we can finally head on over to the holoprojector and talk to Mara Sov.
My Corsairs whisper your name, Guardian. You have found yourself an adversary in Xivu Arath, and a cunning opportunist in Clovis. Yes, we are always watching. A protective eye to precede an assisting hand. I bring information. With Nezarec out of play, our enemies pursue a killing stroke. Aramis has yet to resurface, but in her absence, agents of Xivu Arath swarm Europa. House Salvation seems to be assisting them in despoiling Clovis Bray's installations. While I've yet to discern an exact strategy, Anna and I agree they may be trying to wrest control of the Warmind's power on the Witness's behalf. I fear they're forging inroads for an invasion. Xivu Arath's forces mobilize within the Ascendant Plane. My scouts report her hive prepare to assault the Warmind's bunker on the moon. The submine that rests there is in danger. Shape this knowledge into deathly intent for our enemies, and the Warmind may yet be restored.
So we have our orders. We need to head off to the moon. More Than a Weapon continues. Complete Heist Battleground Moon. So now we get to talk about the new activity type here in Season of the Seraph, which is the Heist Battleground. You hear Battleground, you might be thinking of something like Season of the Risen, and it's sort of close, but not exactly. I mean, it's still kind of the same structure, as it were, fighting through things like a mini strike, in a lot of ways. So yeah, I'll turn that in as well. And hey, I'll take an Eververse engram. So we're going to be doing that, but we're going to be doing that in the next episode just because the Heist Battleground is going to be something of its own. I wanted to kind of make this episode more of a Season of the Seraph introduction without making the last episode too unbelievably long. Next episode, we'll finally jump on into this and get one of these Heist Battlegrounds done. Much like every other season, there's going to be me going through each of the Heist Battlegrounds and then just not showing them for the rest of the season because that gets tedious. You basically see all you need to see once we do the Battleground one time. And then after that, it's just repeats at the same and or higher difficulties. But guys, with all that said, thank you all so much for watching. I will see you all in the next one.